Business or career as identity is what I want to talk about today. Um, so, one of my biggest stumbling blocks throughout my long life by now was that I was, on one hand, living astrologically, meaning I was immersed in astrology, and I was always only primarily interested in my own chart, to study my own chart. And yes, as part of my journey with astrology, as my studies with it, I did I was hungry to understand other people's charts, but not never had that ambition to be an astrologer. Just was curious and just wanted to see how these archetypes operate in other people's lives, to observe patterns and anyway, so that's been my journey since my late teens. I did have like a gap, few years, where I think I was listening to my own, but I was not as in reading, following my own, but less so than usually. But I was not interested in doing astrology for me and my partner because I just was far too happy and I didn't want anything to influence it. I remember thinking like that. And then when I did look at it, I was like, wow, like good, well, and bad, meaning it was what it was. My point here is that I, like I said, astrology was so part of who I was. It's how I saw the world and how I thought about the world. Um, I mean, I had, as I said, this. It's not like I was never one single track minded. Kind of, I'm eclectic by nature, so I was always looking elsewhere as well. Just feeling like a mosaic of the life. What's its purpose? What's how it works? What it's about, and whys, and all the rest. So I was looking everywhere else as well, but astrology was always a kind of at the root of it. And all to say that I don't know, after in my kind of late adolescence and like early adulthood, people would be like, why don't you just, you know so much, why don't you charge? Why don't you do a business? Why don't you, you don't have to, because I was usually complaining about my day jobs, very much so, and had nightmare in them and all the rest. And, uh, and I just always shrieked away from it. So I know various reasons to do with that. One of it is that I always felt it would be I would not be respected by my peers, and my peers were not astrologers, or peers meaning the kind of people, social circles, or people I was yeah, familiar or other socializing, or they were in my lives, circulating around me as it were. And deeper than that, probably my parents and where I come from and my culture and me being entrenched as in being conditioned by all that. So there was that piece that it was not sitting right with me in that sense, that it would not be a respected profession, which I suppose it isn't still yet by many, but I don't care anymore about that. But what I do still care about and what still feels the same as it always has is that I just could not identify as an astrologer. Now, like I say, for a long time I thought it was to do with this respect thing, but actually, once that was stripped away, and certainly since I've been done with that, like, and actually going back to doing astrology, as in just doing astrology more or less, maybe not so much going back professionally, so charging for chart readings, there was still something there that I really, and then that I struggled with to identify myself with, and even though all my clients, and I'm really not exaggerating, although that doesn't have to mean that they were. I know that sometimes people are just complimentary, but really they don't think it's as great. They just, but I suppose if people thought it was awful, they would have said so. I just want to put that out there as a client many times and as an astrologer myself now, but um, I feel that's often the case, or sometimes the case. But they were gushing every time, so maybe even if I take 10% off that, it's always still good. So my point here is that I was good at it. I am good at it. I am very good at it, especially in with time, even more time passing, and going through some major transits myself. I am so rich when it comes to astrological knowledge and insight and wisdom and all the rest. So, and I have a business now, meaning platform where if you want to have a reading from me, this is how much it costs. So just checking the time, and and it's been great. It's been, I do nothing particularly to either promote it or to just write when I feel like writing. And and I still have a steady kind of flow of clients, and but still I do not identify as an astrologer. I absolutely do not identify as an astrologer. And for the last couple of years, when I thought about that, I was, I thought it was up until recently, because the role models of astrologers that I had, and I really still even now don't identify with them. I just don't just nothing about who they are, how they are, their lives, from what I knew, the way they presented themselves, the way they did astrology, everything about it, the way they presented their business, and just never sat right with me. It was just so not me, so not me. So out there, I didn't have a role model to say, I'm like this kind of astrologer, because I wasn't like any of them. This was quite heavy, quite serious, quite definitive. And then in the last couple of years, maybe a few actually, probably with the times and everything, the astrologers that I discovered, as I keep doing that anyway, became far more relatable as people. And as by people, obviously, I don't know them, like we're not mates or anything, but with social media, you kind of get a sense of what their life is and who they are. Far more relatable, far more. And I think that's partly why I became far cozier in the whole cloak of my business identity as an astrologer, right? And yet still I do not, and it's been kind of rearing its head of recent, and hence my change of direction, as I spoke recently about, and some decisions are made, and it keeps on unfolding. I think it's gonna kind of really detour from astrology, even though that will always be, if you want astrology readings from me, you come, there's a price and all that. But I'll be expanding and I'll be going other places. The point I'm driving all of this to is that so I do not identify as an astrologer, and yet at the moment that's my kind of main source of income. And then something hit me yesterday and today. I came across two women. So another kind of thing I do is tarot, is something I discovered only recently, well, a couple of years or something, that I have such a knack for, and just love it, and I'm all into arts and visuals, and oh my god, I don't know why I never clocked with it before. So anyway, or clicked, or even kind of clocked that it's something for me. So I've been like just loving it and doing it like crazy, and just, yeah, anyway. And again, so I've kind of discovered that community, and I follow many and I watch many, and some of them are fantastic. I love what they do and how they do a tarot or oracle, whatever, divinations and whatever it's called. And even this language is just really alien to me. Kind of feels not mine, kind of what I'm trying to say. So, with that said, these people who I just mentioned, without mentioning the names, are equally people I don't relate to, even though I think they're amazing and I absolutely love them, and I'm so grateful for their presence on YouTube, because many a time they were just the saving grace, and I'm so grateful to them. And yet, and even the far more ones that are kind of more like me, I would probably, if we worked in an office together, I'd probably go out for a drink after work. I think that's the vibe I'm getting. But when it comes to how they do tarot and what or just not even how they do tarot, it's not that, it's just something else there. So or rather, I suppose, yeah, it's this kind of, maybe it's too much vague and esoteric or abstract, and I don't know, just a bit out there, but it's almost like being out there as a way of hiding and blurring the boundaries and kind of almost lazy. Not that none of these words, I adore them and I really don't mean any of these words for them, but I'm just analyzing what I'm seeing, as in, and what's putting me off, as in what's making that way of being a tarot reader or tarot practitioner still not my kind of thing. They're so dedicated to their craft and their art, but when it comes to something there, it's just something off for me. off in the sense it just doesn't align me fully with them, so kind of can't really use them as role models. Why would I, as a she maverick anyway? You can ask, and rightly so. But still, so like to model oneself, just that thing about, am I really the only one? I don't want to be the only one. I just want to be the one, or rather a one. Anyway, so yesterday, today, I came across two women who just, one in particular that completely blew my mind. Well, in the sense that this is me, kind of me, quite philosophical, intellectual, I suppose, is one of the words that I always associating myself with. Well, and I'm academically hyper, I don't know, gifted, I suppose, or capable, or apt, or and so yeah, yeah, and yeah, I definitely consider myself like an intellectual, but not in a conventional maybe sense that I don't know what. But my point is, this woman is, and she's like mainstream. So she was in the Guardian, which is the paper I used to love, and I don't read it anymore, but I just don't read papers, and I still occasionally read it, and I just love the sound of that paper. It's a UK based kind of not conservative, more like a Labour liberal paper. Anyway, and so she's that person. She's like, she writes for. She's a writer. She's really cutting edge. She wrote a book about how she's not feminist, and she's like my age or thereabouts. And I didn't know this. I'd heard of her before, but I've just heard of her like I would have heard of many others. And then just, like I say, yesterday or today, I just came across a book, and then it transpires there is a tarot deck that goes with that, and I just like love, and it's about creativity and how you can use tarot to, and it's all the references to art and film and music and books and literature. I was like, wow. I was just like, kind of like how I would want to write a tarot book. And then, like I say, I looked her up, and she had a deck as well, but it's sold out, which just breaks my heart. And that artwork is equally amazing, and like many other artworks are amazing in tarot world, absolutely stunning. But there was something about this that was, it was like me more than maybe any other, because it was more, I don't know, it's just that combination. So I came the closest to finding my role model. And then the other woman was similarly, I just got a deck today and I'm loving it, just loving it. And reading the book and the way she speaks about it, I'm like, oh my God, and she's also like an intellectual. Not that that matters, not that if you're not an intellectual, but I just relate more to that kind of way of, I love that. That's kind of who I am as well. So that's the only connection I'm making, and that's why it matters to me. So she writes in a way that it's, again, like I say, less airy fairy, less full of that jargon of like new agey, I don't know, like divination, for instance. I just don't really like that word. Doesn't sit with me. And that kind of stuff. So she just speaks in plain English, I suppose, like how I would, right? And then so I Google her, and she's a doctor, PhD, biology, science, Jungian psychologist, and all that stuff. And unlike the other woman, I mean, I think the second one is a bit, the one that got a deck today, is a bit older maybe as well. I think she's probably older, where the first one is my age, I think. And the first one looks like me, which I would say you wouldn't think I look witchy or anything. I just look kind of normal or whatever. So the first one looks exactly like me in that way, in that sense, I mean. Where the other one, the second one, is when I saw a photo, I was like, whoa, it was literally like looking at an ancient witch, but not a bad one, just a witch. This was the depth of blackness of her eyes and just her long hair, and then I listened to her video briefly, and but she has quite a soft voice, and the book is just beautiful and all that. So she's more kind of witchy looks wise, but then again, I could well be looking like that. Just it's still my style in terms of how she dresses and how she's a bit more than maybe someone else. I don't know. And all of this to say, let me just remember why all of this was being said. I think basically that none of the role models are really useful, as in meaning, sorry, no, useful in what you kind of, what one would imagine role model is for, so you kind of model yourself on that. In that sense, I don't think they're useful, because at least my life experience showed me that just no. But because I just very quickly, and I recently spoke of this as well in a different context, um, because I very quickly realized it just, whatever works for them doesn't work for me. But what the purpose and the usefulness for me, at least in discovering my role models, is to just kind of get, although it's like, how many times do I need to be encouraged? But the sense of encouragement, like, yes, there is a way you can just do your own thing completely. Now, I know I can, and I kind of am doing it. I have been doing it here and there in different ways. But the point is that it almost also like clarifies the vision of my own, because I'm narrowing it down to, well, yeah, exactly. I don't want to write, I don't want to talk like that. I don't want to write that kind of tarot book. And then, in fact, I don't know what kind of tarot book I want to write or what kind of deck I want to do yet. But these two have given me some ideas of how I can explore that. So, in that sense, it's not a role model. It's just like they have a. So the way they did it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I never thought of that. That's the point. It's not like I thought about it, but I was waiting to see someone who does it, so I'll copy them, or I'll just feel a bit more confident that it can work or whatever. No, this literally is like someone just gives you an idea. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. Fantastic. So I had those two that I just talked about. I don't know their names. I can't remember now. But anyway, I have them written down. So that's the usefulness to me. But essentially, it's just kind of ultimately about refining my own maverick in the world of, well, there is no name for it really. It's neither astrology, neither tarot, neither art, neither business. It's some kind of hybrid that I might even give a name one day too, once I define it more and refine it further. Um, until then, I'll be back tomorrow.